Hello, I'm Mark Ells, Barnstable Town Manager, and this is my Town Manager communication for February 1st through February 13th. The town's clerk's office will be open on Saturday, February 24th from 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. for voter registration only. Early voting in person begins on Saturday, February 24th from 8 a.m. until noon at 200 Main Street, Hyannis. The full election calendar may be viewed under the In the News section of the town's website. We're proceeding with the budget action calendar for FY25. We've completed the review of the capital improvement program task force ranking on our capital projects. As per the budget action calendar, we plan to submit the recommended FY25 capital budget to the town council on Monday, March 4th, 2024. Departments have prepared their FY25 proposed changes to fiscal year fees and submitted that to the town manager for review. And there'll be a public hearing on Tuesday, March 19, 2024. More details of time in place to be announced. And for any information, all information relevant to our budgets, please go to our website. You can look at open budget on our website, or you can go into our Town of Barnstable Finance Department to find that information. Governor Maura Healey signed an executive order creating a commission on clean energy infrastructure siting and permitting in an effort to meet the emissions limits outlined in the Clean Energy and Climate Plan. And if you want to go on to mass.gov and put in any of these descriptions, you can find all this information. Mass will need to site a significant amount of new energy infrastructure, including new solar and wind generation, storage, transmission, and distribution infrastructure. The Clean Energy Infrastructure Siting and Permitting Commission is described as one that will bring together stakeholders to swiftly remove barriers to responsible clean energy infrastructure development. This commission will be tasked with reducing permitting timelines, ensuring communities have input in the siting and permitting of clean energy infrastructure, and ensuring that the benefits of the clean energy transmission are shared equitably. The commission is chaired by Secretary Rebecca Tepper of the Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs. The Secretary will order every relevant agency housed in the Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs to evaluate existing permitting processes impacting energy infrastructure and identifying potential areas of improvement. The commission will also be instructed to make recommendations on administrative, regulatory, and legislative changes to existing permitting and siting procedures by spring of 24. Barnstable has requested a seat on the committee, but it does not appear that we shall receive that appointment. We were informed on February 1st, 2024, that the commission has only had internal meetings as they get themselves organized. That's why, actually, it's part of why I'm sharing this with you. They're working to get something for the public to engage in very soon. And it was suggested that we direct any comments through the appointed representatives from the Mass Municipal Association, Mass Association of Conservation Commissioners, and the Metropolitan Area Planning Commission. And we are preparing a letter to all of the above and copying the governor and the Cape legislative delegation, requesting adequate time to review and provide input on any proposed recommendations. And we'll keep you advised of our progress on this effort. But obviously pointing out that they're saying they're coming out with a report in the spring of 24. We don't know what that report will say. I've been working with Julian Sear, Senator Sear, and he has made a very strong effort to have Barnstable engaged in this process. That has not occurred directly. On January 18, 2024, the Executive Committee of the Cape Cod and Islands Water Protection Fund Management Board voted to endorse the strategy for meeting the fund's financial needs. If you followed what's occurred with this fund, it's been able to provide a 25% principal subsidy for wastewater projects on Cape Cod that are determined by the Department of Environmental Protection as being eligible for on the intended use plan for low interest or no interest loans and a principal subsidy. The Cape and Islands Trust Fund revenues the revenue projections haven't changed. They're pretty accurate and stable. We've basically quadrupled the amount of project costs, meaning we collectively on Cape Cod with wastewater projects, a combination of more projects and a combination of inflation have impacted that. And so the ability to continue to see a 25% principal subsidy will only occur if we have the support of the state to do this. There's also bipartisan infrastructure legislation funds that are designated specifically for this purpose. And really what we're asking in these letters that have been sent by the trust, of which I am Barnstable's member, we've sent a letter to the State Treasurer, Secretary of Administration and Finance, and then the Commissioner of the Department of Environmental Protection, requesting, and you can look in my town manager communication and see the strategy. It's a few pages worth of strategy, but certainly if you're interested, please take a look and ask questions. But we're asking them to look at that and to move forward with it. Why those three secretaries and treasurer and commissioner actually? Because they are the three members of the Clean Water Trust, and the Clean Water Trust make the decisions on how monies that are coming into the state from this bipartisan infrastructure legislation get administered. So it's very important that we share that for Cape Cod and that we try to continue to secure the 25% principal subsidy on these projects. I've also included a letter that went to the Joint Committee on Housing. There's a housing bill out there, and certainly to achieve what we need to with housing on Cape Cod, we're also looking at a need for infrastructure, specifically wastewater infrastructure. So we want to make sure that they're aware of that, and that if there are opportunities to also have funding available for the wastewater projects that are going forward, that they are looking at that within the housing bond bill and the eligibility that will follow those funds. So right now, I'm preparing a letter for our town council to review and consider that basically outlines the strategy that you'll see in these letters. It's very important. This is a primary funding source for us. So please follow it and stay tuned to whether we're successful in securing these very important capital project funds. I was recently asked a question: is Barnstable a pollinator-friendly community? And I responded as follows. Through the National Wildlife Federation's Mare Monarch Pledge, communities across the country are committing to creating habitat for monarch butterflies and other pollinators, in addition to coordinating educational outreach to inform members of their community of the importance of pollinators and how to make a difference. And the town of Barnstable officially took the pledge to become a Mare's Monarch community last March. Each year, the town must commit to implement at least 3 action items. And you can go in, I give a link on my manager communication if you want to go in and look at the details of this. And the 3 that we pledged to last year were to add or maintain native milkweed and nectar producing plants in community gardens, to engage with community garden groups and urge them to plant native milkweed and nectar producing plants, and to engage with developers, planners, and landscape architects to identify opportunities to create monarch habitat. And if you're not following what's going on with pollinators and monarchs and other species, there have been significant impacts and reductions in populations in recent years. So that's a whole different thing that if you're interested, you may want to follow. Also related, but not specifically about pollinators, Barnstable's recognized as a tree city, and we're hosting annual events here. We're also greening the gateway, which is a project to plant 2,400 trees in the greater Hyannis area. And we're well underway at this point. And if you're wondering what this is, again, I've given a link, or you can go on our website and take a look at what we're doing in Barnstable. We received state funding for the planting of these 2,400 trees, with a goal of covering 5% of the town's planting zones in new tree canopies over the next 3 years through the summer of 2026. Basically, the zone that's eligible, it's not the whole town. The zone that's eligible is about 966 acres of area. It's shown on a map if you want to go in on our website and take a look at it. And it includes residential homes and businesses located in the Hyannis area south of Route 28, Falmouth Road, and north of West Main Street. Includes all the neighborhoods north of our downtown and west of C Street. So I'd encourage you, if you're interested, take a look. If you need to, you can call our Planning and Development Department. They are overseeing this effort in coordination with DPW and our tree warden. And each of these efforts supports quality habitat, biodiversity, and protects our water and our natural resources in Barnstable. So certainly you can also ask your landscape company. Our landscapers out there in Barnstable are very conscientious relevant to this. So I'm sure that they have a product that they may want to talk with you about as well. So, contact any and all. And thank you for the question. And finally, that closes what I'm going to say today, but Kelly Colopy will follow, the communication manager for the Department of Public Works, to provide an update on water resource management planning, including the comprehensive wastewater management plan. So thank you.
Good afternoon, Kelly Colby from the Department of Public Works, and I will be providing your water resources management update. To begin, we'll take a look at the Route 28 East Sewer Expansion Project, which is currently in active construction. We continue to operate with 2 crews, the first being located on Finney's Lane between Great Marsh Road and Woquacket Lane. Currently, that crew is wrapping up sewer services before they will move on to water and drainage work. So all gravity sewer within that stretch of roadway has been complete, and now we are working on, as I mentioned, services, water and drainage. Crew 2 is currently excavating on West Main Street in between Route 28 and Strawberry Hill Road. We have about 2/3 of the gravity sewer complete on that portion of the project. Once that is completed, we will move into sewer services and water work. We do anticipate all construction for the Route 28 East Sewer Expansion Project to be completed this coming spring, with pavement restoration anticipated by late spring. And then sewer connections for this project, we are looking at availability as early as this coming fall of 2024. Additionally, this project includes the Finney's Lane pump station, where HVAC and electrical are ongoing on site. Site grading has also commenced, and we anticipate work on the pump station will be completed just in time for the spring of 2024, so right in line with our in-road sewer construction. On the next slide, we will take a look at the pump station as it stands right now before we look at the active construction map. Here you have the most recent photo, which is actually featured in the Cape Cod Times. This shows the exterior of the building really coming along with our shingles and shutters, and then you can start to see that cleanup happening on the around the environment on the outside of the building as well. And now we'll take a look at remaining construction as of February 15th of this year. So if you remember in previous reports, we still had a lot of red on the screen. You're starting to see that red really decrease, which is great. That means that our remaining gravity sewer, that really deep excavation and installation is dwindling. We are working towards completion of the job. So right now you'll see red remaining on West Main Street. As we noted, about 2/3 of the gravity sewer is complete on that section of roadway. And then just above that on Finney's Lane, you'll see that dashed sort of blue line there that indicates that the crew has moved on to sewer service laterals for each property identified along the project route, as well as our water and drainage work. Next, we'll shift over to the Strawberry Hill Road sewer expansion project. Not any real significant updates from the last report as we continue to work through project closeout and what we call our final project punch list. Strawberry Hill Road Pump Station, we continue to work through testing and startup as we move to that pump station being fully functional. And then as previously reported, we do anticipate first connections for portions of this project route to be available this coming spring. We've been working hand in hand with the Board of Health and the Health Department on laying out communications in line with the Health Department's, or I should say the Board of Health's sewer connection policy. And we anticipate first connections being in the portion of the project route listed below. So Finney's Lane from Route 132 to Status Lane, Walquacket Lane from Quissit Road to Route 28, Strawberry Hill Road from Route 28 to Craigville Beach Road, West Main Street from Strawberry Hill Road to Old Strawberry Hill Road, and Craigville Beach Road from Strawberry Hill Road to Jackson Avenue. So a lot of variety there in where you're going to start seeing those first connections, but it really makes up the bulk of this project route. And then just as a reminder, restoration, we do still have some small sections of roadway that need their final restoration and paving. Specifically Walquacket Lane and Strawberry Hill Road from Route 28 to Pine Street. And that restoration is owned by Vineyard Wind as part of their host community agreement, and they anticipate having that paving completed this coming spring once favorable paving conditions are available. Now we'll take a look at the Centerville Village Sewer Expansion Project. If you remember from our last report, we had this item brought up, item 2024-093, which had a first read on January 18th of this year. We do anticipate a public hearing and vote coming up at the March 7th Town Council meeting. And that essentially is for the proposed phasing of this project. So last report, we talked about how a proposed northern phase was put on the table for Town Council to discuss. And that would include essentially expediting all of the work on the northern portion of this project, which includes Mothers Park, the Mothers Park pump station, and a portion of Route 28 West, or the Route 28 West project, which is essentially Finney's Lane from Old Stage Road. Why we were proposing this segmentation was to allow us to just continue to make progress. Obviously, there are some uncertainties with the proposed Park City Wind project, and by expediting this northern portion of the work, we are allowed to continue on our schedule and continue making progress as part of our CWMP sewer expansion. Also, it's important that we maximize our state revolving funds funding and the associated principal subsidy available from the Cape and Islands Water Protection Fund. By advancing this northern portion of the phase, we really put ourselves in a great position for those dollars. Now, with that said, securing state revolving funds requires us to have a construction contract in place by this summer. So we do anticipate going out to bid in early spring. And following that, we have a Conservation Commission hearing scheduled currently for February 20th. And that's to address work within our natural resources buffers, our wetland buffers, specifically for the work proposed in this northern phase and the Mothers Park location. Additional sewer projects in design, we have quite a number of them. As you may recall, we have 17 individual projects as part of phase 1 of the CWMP sewer expansion project. And out of those 17 projects, like I said, quite a few that are here in design. About 80% of our projects at this point of phase 1 are in some level of survey or design. The first being Route 28 West. Again, no significant updates here. We noted last time in our most recent report that Route 20 West Sewer Expansion Project was the third ranked project in the 2024 intended use plan for our clean water projects here in the state. Preliminary design is ongoing, and we do anticipate construction starting in 2025. Now, with that said, we have submitted our MassDOT permit applications, and we do intend to have a public information meeting, most likely at some point this year, before the end of this calendar year. We also have the Finney's Lane Neighborhoods Project, which continues to work through design. We are actually looking to retain a designer in the coming months to progress this project specifically to the final design phase. And we are continuing our private roadway utility easement takings and siting of sewer pump stations. Construction is anticipated to begin for this project in 2026. Additionally, we have the Great Marsh Road Neighborhoods Project, Long Pond Area and Long Beach Road projects, Old Yarmouth Road, and the Old Craigville Road Sewer Expansion Project. All of those projects I've just named are in some level of preliminary design and survey. So still working through, again, that preliminary design as we continue to do our survey work out in the field that will ultimately inform that design. And construction is anticipated on those projects to begin anywhere from 2027 all the way to 2030. And each of their anticipated construction start times are listed below the projects you see on your screen. Next, we're going to shift over to the 720 Main Street Pump Station Replacement Project. This is a project that you've recently seen activity down on Main Street, specifically at 725 Main Street in Hyannis. And this part of the project is not specifically related to our CWMP sewer expansion program, but rather it's part of the town's sewer pump station rehabilitation program. So previous evaluations of the existing pump station across the street at 720 Main Street determined that that infrastructure does not have the capacity to handle existing peak design flows. And ultimately, it's also approaching its end of intended design life. Additionally, with that said, sewers on South Street are approaching capacity. And if we don't address that, that could restrict growth or will restrict growth within the town's growth incentive zone. So ultimately, the decision was made to construct a new sewer pump station that could address all of those issues across the street on the town-owned property at 725 Main Street. The pump station itself is a wet pit dry style pump station. It'll be a single-story concrete masonry walls with cedar shake veneer and asphalt shingle roof. And on the next slide, I'll actually show you our most recent schematic that shows essentially what we envision the pump station to look like. The building itself will house the pumps, piping, odor control system, electrical systems, HVAC, and a standby generator as well. Installation of excavation support has already started on site. That started earlier this month. And the on-site work hours are 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. So if you're in the area now, whether driving by or you frequent a business there, you will notice that that excavation support is done by driving sheeting and piles. So that does cause some vibration. We have vibration monitoring in place and have also communicated with all of the businesses and residents in the area about what they can expect during that process. We expect the driving of piles to take 2 to 3 weeks total, and we're already about a week and a half in, so we are hopefully wrapping up that portion of the excavation before we move into further developments on site. There's also an in-road sewer construction portion to this project. Currently, we are excavating within Section 1, what we're calling Section 1, which is 725 Main Street, the site location for our new pump station, to about Potter Avenue on where Potter Avenue and Main Street meet. The in-road work hours are slightly different than what you see on site. In-road, we are operating from 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. And a large reason for that is simply being able to mitigate any traffic impacts to those who are driving to the schools in the area. So having that later start time allows us to avoid some of the congestion that you may see on the roadways during school drop-off times. This work does require a single direction detour, currently right now of just westbound traffic. So essentially any traffic heading westbound on Main Street from Stephen Street to the West End Rotary. So it really is towards the end of that commercial district. And to, again, further facilitate conversation and engage our community, we have done multiple rounds of in-person outreach to all the residents and businesses in the area. And we most recently held a neighborhood meeting this past Thursday, February 8th, where we provided an update on the project, anticipated construction schedules, and answered questions from the public. And as promised, here is a proposed visual of the 725 Main Street pump station. This visual is essentially looking south from Main Street. So you'll see the shutters, the siding. We're really trying to have this building match the character and aesthetic of not just Cape Cod, but essentially that portion of Hyannis. Now we'll take a look at the water pollution control facility, where we've got a number of projects that are ongoing. The first being our solids processing facility upgrades. This project is essentially wrapping up. We expect substantial project completion to be marked by the end of this month. So, essentially two and a half weeks away. And then the next phase of work will be working through our project punch list so that we can officially close out this construction portion of the project. You'll see on the right-hand corner of your screen, a lot of that project punch list and remaining work includes things like pipe painting. So that does continue at the solids processing facility. We also have the nitrogen removal and headworks improvements project, which is making headway. No pun intended, of course. That is the #1 ranked project in the 2024 Draft Clean Water Fund intended use plan. So really points to the significance of this program, specifically in this project as part of our CWMP. As of last report, our basis of design report is in review and we're preparing to move into final design. And the bid has actually closed for the MBR, which we expect which we are reviewing applicants currently. Once we have that MBR selected, that really is the cornerstone piece to helping us move into final design. So we're making great progress there, and we anticipate construction to start on the nitrogen removal and headworks improvements project fall of 2025. And then lastly, in regards to the water pollution control facility, we continue to make progress on the effluent disposal evaluation. We continue to work with our consultant, CDM Smith, on water reuse and disposal alternatives and the analysis that comes with all of the variables there. And we are hosting monthly meetings with the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection as we work through some potential solutions for our effluent disposal. Lastly, we'll take a look at water quality. 3 water quality projects that are continuing to progress. The first being the APCC, Association to Preserve Cape Cod's Boat Ramps Stormwater Improvement Project. As you may remember, Shubal Pond was selected by the APCC. An existing condition survey plan is now under review as of our last report, and the design continues to progress through the 25% set plans. We do anticipate a public participation meeting this coming spring as we advance further through design so that we can share project updates and take comments from the public. Additionally, we have stormwater improvement projects at Clamshell Cove Road and Old Shore Road, Katuitt. So as of last report, we have had our kickoff meeting in which both of these projects will now be completed together. We've also moved towards wetlands delineation survey on Old Shore Road. That is in progress. And again, we continue to just work very closely with the NRCS, the Natural Resources Conservation Service, which did provide a grant to fund these drainage improvements that ultimately will help reduce stormwater inputs into the Shoestring Bay estuary. And lastly, we've made some progress on Long Pond Marston's Mills floating treatment wetland. This is an exciting project for us. We have our request for quote out. It was issued on February 12th of this month. And we are in the process of procuring our recommended plants for deployment from New England wetland plants. Ultimately, we are anticipating a spring of this year deployment for this project. That concludes our water resources update. Thank you.